BioLove29 here, and this is BioLive Organics. So today we're here to answer Ganja Hawk's 7 fun questions. So what's up, Ganja Hawk? One love, brother. So Ganja Hawk, of course, is a brother who's out there spreading a lot of love. He features other growers on his channel. And, you know, a lot of growers I had no clue that even existed. So I've subscribed to many of the growers who he showcased. Matter of fact, I believe I've subscribed to them all. But anyway, we're here to answer his questions. So, first question, do you smoke in the house? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you in a silent manner, so to speak. I think that answers your question. Now, I have to be honest, that hasn't always been the case. And that's been based on the female that I've lived with. So, during my first marriage, she didn't smoke. And if you've been involved with a woman or anybody else has been involved with a woman or a partner or whatever who doesn't smoke, you know the potential for a lot of backlash is there. There's always been a lot of negative propaganda when it comes to cannabis. So a lot of people believed it. I mean, I believed it even though I smoked it. I believed that eventually, like, maybe I'd lose some brain cells or something, you know. So with all of that negative propaganda, and of course, you know, when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't smoke, they may have some pretty harsh views when it comes to cannabis. And that wife, she really wasn't that bad on the issue. We eventually compromised. You know, she smoked. She smoked cigarettes. I, of course, smoked cannabis. I've never been a cigarette smoker. I tried to smoke cigarettes in high school. After 3 days, I was done. I was so sick from it, I couldn't continue. And I'm glad that happened to me, of course, because now as an adult, I don't have to kick that addiction. But anyway, I smoked in the house when I lived with her. She smoked cigarettes in the house, and, you know, hey, we made it work. When I lived alone, of course, I smoked in the house. You know, that's not even an issue. You know, I'm paying the bills, I live here alone, I smoke in the house. The next woman I lived with was a vegan, and she didn't smoke. She smoked in the past. And she was an East Coast girl. You know, some of those East Coast girls, you know, they're headstrong. You know, they'll tell you exactly how they feel, and they don't sugarcoat anything. So she was totally against me smoking weed. But, you know, when we lived apart, you know, I just smoked when I wasn't around her. When she came over and would, you know, spend a couple of days with me or whatever, I'd go out on my balcony and smoke. And that was a compromise. Because I feel like, hey, if you're in the room with somebody smoking, you know, you're going to inhale some of that smoke. And if you don't want cannabis in your system, then of course I think, you know, you have the right not to have cannabis in your system. And the simple thing for me to do would be to go out on my balcony. So that's what I did. My current marriage, let me add, I wasn't married to the vegan, we just lived together. But my current marriage, we're both stoners, so we smoke in the house. It's not even an issue. I will say that, she's a little bit more cautious, I guess the word. She wants to put towels next to the door, so in case somebody walks by our door that, nobody will smell it, things like that. I don't even trip on things like that. But she does. She'll want to spray air freshener and things like that. I don't like to inhale chemicals, so, I don't want air freshener and stuff being sprayed around me. But we do smoke in the house. Second question, what age did I start smoking? And you did say you don't want me to be specific. Let me say it was somewhere between the age of 1 and 53. No, in all seriousness, I was in high school the first time I smoked. And it was just a one-time event. And maybe about a year later, I was at a party, and my friends at the party, they were smoking, and I was like, hey, what the hell, let me try it again. And I've been a regular smoker ever since that night. I bought my first nickel bag, which looked like this, a bag of weed like that for $5 back then. And I've been a regular smoker ever since, really, other than a few times when I stopped. And I've always bought my own weed. I've never been like, we used to call them freeloaders and stuff like that, where, you try to fire up a bud, and there are always these freeloaders, these people who would always appear right when you wanted to smoke. And, of course, in high school, we're doing all kinds of stupid things. We're smoking at the school, we're sneaking into the auditorium, all of that kind of stuff. And that's how it was for me, high school. Now, smoking and driving, number 3. I don't smoke in my car. And has that always been the case? When I was a youngster, hey, I'd run around so we'd be blowing it up in the car. Almost couldn't see out the windows. Or we go somewhere, we park somewhere, drive up on a ridge or whatever to the Lover's Point, park and, smoke with your girl or whatever. Sometimes you go up there with a group of your buddies or just a group of friends, female and male, and you go up there and you get down. But now I don't smoke in my car. I was smoking and drive right after, of course. I don't believe that, at least for me, cannabis has never impaired my driving. I might forget where the hell I'm going. I might drive past my exit. Things like that, but definitely not the type of experience you get from alcohol where you don't even remember getting home. So I don't drink and drive, and I don't, but I do smoke and drive. And I have a cousin who's been a fireman for over 30 years, and he says he has never responded to a car accident caused by cannabis. He's never responded to a nightclub or something and found people passed out from cannabis. But alcohol, let me tell you, just about it, the majority of accidents that I believe that he responded to, somebody was involved with, somebody was impaired with alcohol. Not every accident, but he did say, maybe I shouldn't even say the majority, but he did say a high percentage. And if there was any impairment involved, it was always alcohol. It might have been other things mixed with the alcohol, but it was always alcohol if there was an accident. He never responded to an accident caused by cannabis. Matter of fact, he told me this one story about how he responded to an accident where a drunk driver hit a guy who was returning from his cannabis club. He worked at a cannabis club and he was transporting some. And he had probably like, a couple of pounds of weed in his car. And it was just hilarious, in a sense. It wasn't hilarious because, people did get hurt, but it was a funny story because the guy actually was drunk, and it just showed something. The person with the cannabis, probably had smoked cannabis. So he was driving nice and safe. The guy with the alcohol, bam. And it's funny because they're trying to make a correlation with marijuana use and driving and cannabis use. And, according to my cousin, it's a no-brainer. Cannabis, for most people, they can smoke some cannabis and drive. So, what's the craziest thing I ever did to get weed? Number 4, I think is I drove 300 miles just to get an ounce of weed. And that's round trip. So I drove 150 miles to get to the place to get the bud. And I drove 150 miles to get back home. And that's just to buy an ounce of weed. And I didn't, what makes it even crazier is I was really going up to get a quarter ounce of weed. But it was really good weed, so I just said, let me just buy a whole ounce because I know I'm not going to drive through this again. So I think that's the craziest thing I did to get weed. Number 5, do I get tired of smoking the same strain? Definitely. And even with this grow I have going currently, I started to just do the Blue Frost, and I said to myself, I know I'm going to want some variety, so let me run and get me some of these sherbet clones, because sherbet's a variety I really, really like, and I haven't grown it in a while, but I really like it, so it's a good addition to that Blue Frost. Now, I agree with you that if you smoke the same strain for a long period of time, you get tolerance to it. And that's happened to me recently, where I have just one strain that I'm really smoking and I get tired of it. So I'll go to a cannabis club and I buy some bud, and Mrs. J and I initially were like, oh man, this is really good, man. And I'm thinking that it's possibly better than what I grew. But then after smoking that weed, just a couple of joints of it or a couple of bowls, I find that when I go back to mine, it's far superior. But I just got used to it. So that always encourages me that I'm doing some things right. So yes, I definitely get tired of smoking the same strain. Number 6, mixing strains. As far as mixing strains in the same joint, I really don't like to do that. I like to experience each strain by itself. But I will, when I was in high school, we used to do something called fade. And that's everybody would come with their joint. And I might have some Colombian Gold, and my buddy might have some type of Sesamia strain. And maybe somebody else had some brown dirt weed or whatever, but we would fade. And so I've never had a problem doing that, smoking different types of bud at the same time. So I might be taking a hit of, let's say, the Blue Frost, and I go right and take a hit of some kosher kush. I'll do that. So I'll mix it that way, but I just don't like to mix it together and smoke them, inhaling the same strain together. I don't like to do that, really. So final question, number 7, which is if I was stuck on an island, what stoner would I want to be stuck on the island with? And what 2 strains would I like to have with me? Well, to be honest, if I was going to be stuck on an island, the stoner I want to be stuck on that island with is Mrs. J. You know, she's my partner in life. The woman that I love, she loves me, and she's a beautiful woman. And she likes to get high. Now, we are married, so it would be just like being married. And anybody who's married knows it's a roller coaster. Every day is not a great day. But in any relationship, every day is not going to be a good day, especially when you're in close proximity with somebody a lot. You know, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could even be your mother or your father, it could be your best friend, it could be your lover, it could be your wife. And there are going to be times when you're going to rub each other the wrong way, but that's just life. So if I was going to be stuck on an island, that's the stoner, Mrs. J. As far as what 2 strains I want to be stuck with, I'd have to go way back, way back. I'd have to jump in that hot tub time machine and go back to like 1984, and I'd have to have in my possession. I'd have to grab, I should say, I'd have to jump in the hot tub time machine and grab some Humboldt County bud from the early 80s and some chocolate Buddha Thai from the early 80s. Those 2 strains just had flavor and taste. And they gave you a high that's just uncomparable. Anybody who's old enough from the Bay Area, from Northern Cali, will tell you about our seasonal cannabis availability. During the summertime, which was kind of like the drought time really, that's when we generally, all we could get a hold of was brown weed, and some of it we called dirt weed. And that was the lowest quality. Some of the brown weed was what we called gold. Usually it was Colombian gold. There were a couple of other varieties, Panama red, Colombian red, and even some African varieties were available during the summertime. But you know, it was hard to get. Most of the time it was the brown dirt weed or some gold. Once we got around to the fall, that's when the Christmas trees, as we like to call it, came out. Then when that green came out, there'd be all kinds of what we called cess back then. We didn't know, we didn't have all those different names for cannabis like they do now. So we just called some stuff cess, we called other stuff gold, other stuff dirt weed. And about when I was in the 11th grade, came across my first bag of real indica, and it blew me away. So it's kind of hard to pick 2, but if you give me 3, that indica, one of those first varieties of indica would be one of my strains I'd like to have. The Humboldt County bud and some of the chocolate Buddha Thai. Those would be 3 strains. I'm sorry, I have to have 3. You're gonna make me go on an island. I'm taking 3 with me everywhere I go, just in case I get stuck on an island. And those would be the 3 I'd like to have. And if I could cheat a little bit, in later years, since I've been growing, a purple strain that I grew would be a contender also. And that purple strain was different than any purple that I've ever smoked since. had the best flavor, and the bud was literally completely purple. And that plant was amazing. I had the bud that the bag of weed that I got the 4 seeds from, all 4 seeds grew the exact same bud. They were identical. It was like no pheno difference. And that bud was totally purple. The plant would start off green, and about the 4th week of flower, the plant would just turn completely purple. Stems, everything, a deep, dark violet purple. And the hairs were gold. And if you saw it in a bag, it looked like raisins or something. It was so dark. I'd love to have that strain, maybe if I was on an island. And one other strain I grew came from a bag seed also. And it was probably one of the most potent plants that I ever grew. And it also one of the biggest yielders. And just for fun, we just called it the West Coast, because we were on the West Coast and we didn't know what else to call it. And that was some awesome bud. So if I got stuck on an island back in the 80s, it would have been the Humboldt County and probably the chocolate Buddha Thai and maybe the first indica strains that I smoked. If it would have been, since I've been growing, definitely that West Coast and that purple bud that I grew. Those would be the 2 strains that I want to be stuck on an island with. And of course, as I mentioned before, Mrs. J is the stoner I want to be stuck on the island with. So that being said, one love, Ganja Hawk. Thanks for asking the questions. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to answer them. And to the grower community, go to Ganja Hawk's channel and give them your answers. And you can even respond on this vid. What are your answers to those questions? That's, do you smoke in the house? What age did you start to smoke? And we want you to keep it vague there. Do you smoke and drive? The craziest thing you ever did to get some cannabis? Do you get tired of smoking the same strain? Do you mix strains? And number 7, if you were stuck on an island, what stoner would you want to be stuck on an island with? And what 2 strains would you want to be stuck on an island with? So growers love to the community, to the fam. One love to you all. This is BioLiving Organics, and I'm BioBud29.